Ivara and Synoid Simulor build, what kind of builds I use. Let me start this off by saying, in no means are these the only builds that work on this frame and on this weapon. It's just simply the ones that I use and have found to be some of the most effective. Now I'm going to start off by saying that Ivara can be acquired relatively easily. It takes some time, but it's relatively easy to do. The systems can be acquired through a spy mission level 1 through 15. I believe there's a spy on Mercury that you can run. Shushui. That's 18 to 20. That'll yield a chassis. Basically, Ivara system spawns level 1 through 15. The chassis are 15 through 25.
A new alert has begun.
And the helmet
it will be marked on navigation.
25 plus. So that leads you, the 25 plus leads you in Pluto and Sedna areas to farm for those parts. The Synoid Simulor can be acquired through Cephalon Suda. If you don't have Cephalon Suda, you're going to have to try to buy it from another person. But it would cost 1,200 or 125,000 standing. Wow, excuse me. Now, let's get down to the builds. So I have two builds for Ivara. One that I use mainly, and the other one I've been kind of messing around with. It needs some forma. I have a reactor on my Ivara, but I do not have any forma. And I am still able to make a pretty decent build. I'm going to start off by showing you my what I use for sorties and use for spy missions. This is mainly the build that I normally run, as I do not main Ivara. I do not play her very much. I normally only use her on spy missions. Now you'll need some key mods such as Intruder, which you should have. It's a pretty common mod. And Infiltrate. Infiltrate can be acquired through one of the syndicates. I'm not sure, or a couple of the syndicates. It's pretty easy to acquire. If not, it's easy to trade for. If you're in my clan, feel free to message me, and I'm pretty sure I would be able to get it for you. Now, this is simply for running the Prowl. As you can see, my energy per second is down to a 2.5 energy per second and only a 6 casting cost. Steal time is at 2.23, which is nice, but it's not really needed. That's not what we're really using this build for. It's mostly just for the being able to stay invisible and walk through lasers, and the bubble duration on the cloak for allies if they're having problems as well. Now, I run high efficiency, so fleeting expertise streamline, narrow-minded for your duration, overextended to counter your duration or your range cost, intensify simply just to bring up that strength just a little bit more so that you are able to use some of your other abilities and they don't seem quite as useless. That's not necessarily needed. And prime flow to give you the biggest energy. Now, you can sub out regular flow for prime flow and still have this build be effective. If you're having problems with dying or survivability or whatnot, you can swap this intensify out for redirection or vitality. Steel fiber is not really that useful since she only has 65 armor to begin with. Now, the other build that I run is a little bit more survivability. It does need forma in order to complete it, because you would forma a D polarity and I believe 2 D polarities and a check polarity, so that this build here is still viable. There might be 2. Okay, I scratched that. It'd be a D polarity and 2 and a dash. Yeah, it'd be a D polarity and a dash. Yep, that's what it looks like. So, mind you, I haven't formed, so I can't say for sure. But basically you would just put Vitality in that empty slot. I don't use Exalis adapters on her because I don't main her. Obviously, if you wanted to form a little bit more, you could still take up that Exalis adapter, which I would probably put Cunning Drift for a little bit more range, and that slide and friction kind of really helps when you're trying to stay invisible on Prowl, as it allows you to roll farther, since you can't slide and you can't run while you're in Prowl mode. Now, I run Corrosive Projection on this just because you are running for damage. So you're wanting to be able to nullify out that armor and take that armor down 30% so that you're able to hit a lot harder. Obviously, you can see my Artemis bow is a lot stronger on this build. Your energy cost is a little bit higher, so that might run into some problems down the road, with some energy, but if you're like me, you run energy pads and you have no problems with it. Now, this is still a viable Prowl build. However, your energy per second is half a point. It is 25% higher, and it winds up running your energy down a lot faster. However, it's not viable for spies, as it does not have the infiltrator mod, so you're not able to walk through lasers, and it does not have the intruder mod, which allows you to hack, which is very, it gives you time to hack, which is very nice in sorties. I also have Energy Siphon on the intruder build, or infiltrate build, as I call it, for regenning your energy as you're in Prowl, because if your energy per second is only 2.5 and you are gaining 0.6 back, you are gaining more back than you're costing, so therefore your Prowl is not costing you any energy. Now, you can form for Coaction Drift and allow the Coaction Drift to boost up Energy Siphon and gain you more energy, so that when you're playing and you're in Prowl, you're actually gaining energy back while you're in Prowl, and it's not actually taking up any energy. Let's see here, is there anything else I need to cover? Prime continuity obviously can be subbed out for regular continuity. That might be something that would have to be kind of worked out. Again, the only reason why I'm running regular flow here is because I don't have the capacity to run prime flow. Not as needed either. So yeah, I think that's about all that is covered in Ivara. Show you the stats one more time. This is on the killing build, the Artemis bow build, and this is on the infiltrate build. Alright, now onto the simulor. Now, I mod the simulor 3 different ways, depending upon how what enemies I'm going after. The simulor starts with a D polarity, a check polarity, and a dash polarity. I have formed 3 times, added 3 dashes. I have found this is pretty much all you need, even with having prime cryo rounds, which, as I said before, can always be subbed out for regular cryo rounds. Now, I do a viral build for Grenier, simply because a corrosive build is not viable with this build. Obviously, you want to have serration heavy caliber. I have been told by a lot of people that split chamber doesn't do anything, but watch the stats. As soon as I put split chamber on, your stats go up. You take split chamber off, your stats go down. So split chamber obviously does a major amount of work for you. So I feel that is a needed mod on there. I also like to throw Shred on, simply for the extra fire rate. The punch through is nice. When enemies are flooding you real close so the balls don't drop, just bounce right off the enemies. But it's not that's not what it's on there for. It's simply just on there for the fire rate, so you can sub that out for gunslinger if you find that you need more fire rate. Now the other thing I do is I add prime cryo rounds into our D polarity. I put infected clip into the slash polarity, and then I also run with malignant force and rhyme rounds, giving you a 37% status chance. You're at 1,409 viral, and you're stacking up to about 4,308 damage all around when you're at max, when you've connected all of the dots. Now, this is basic. These bottom are across all of my builds. I have a viral build for Grineer, obviously, that I just showed you. I have a magnetic build for Corpus, which just uses Stormbringer, high voltage. High voltage is a barrel mod, so you might be a little harder pressed to find that. In this case, if you're not able to acquire high voltage, I'm not sure if there is. Yeah, I don't think there's another. If you're not able to acquire high voltage, my recommendation is to
Tenno, there's a time-limited mission alert available. Check navigation.
Run. Where is it? Hammer shot. Because it adds that little bit of status chance. So you're able to hopefully get that magnetic proc a little bit faster, and it adds to the crit damage. Even though this is not a crit weapon, I have noticed that it crits relatively often, especially if you put your AoE at head level. So that hammer shot is actually a little effective. But since I have the mods for it, I'm gonna just go ahead and keep my high voltage on there. I have made a crit build before on the simulor. It will work, but it's not viable at endgame. And then lastly, I have a blast build for infected, which again is using prime cryo rounds, rhyme rounds, thermite, and hellfire. As I've said before, if you don't have prime cryo rounds, you can always swap out for regular cryo rounds, and it'll give you about 1,225 damage. This is with maxed heavy caliber inspiration, of course. And I think that just about does it. If there's anything else that you guys, any other Warframes or weapons that you guys would like me to review, kind of show you how to mod them, I can go a little bit more in depth into how to farm Ivara if you would like. Any other questions or whatnot, feel free to post into the community, and I'll see you later.